Bonjour, hi. Welcome back to another episode of CanadaOne. I'm Matthew. And is Quebec finally doing something about immigration? What? Just announced yesterday, François Legault announces a 6-month freeze for low-waged foreign temporary worker jobs. Well, isn't this a lovely surprise or a step in the right direction? Finally, the government's noticing the fact that we have too many people and we can't support them. The 6-month freeze will be for any foreign temporary worker making under $27.47 an hour, which is the median wage in Quebec. It will only pause for new application as well as the renewal for applications. But there are some exemptions because we can't have everything we want now, can we? Exemptions for healthcare, education, construction, agriculture, and food processing. Those last two, I don't think need to be exempt, but I guess farmers, they can't, we can't get rid of the immigrants because the farmers, how are they going to be able to pick their own fields? With machinery and just raise the prices, dog. Oh, but you can't, they're all on contract. Good, let's just sell it all to big corporations, okay? I don't care anymore. Just give it all to Monsanto, alright? We've got bigger issues to deal with. I'm kidding. We love the small farmer. We hate monoculture agriculture. We get it, pesticide, blah, okay? But for healthcare, education, and construction, what does that mean for education? Does that mean my teacher is going to be a temporary Indian? Because that would be fun, wouldn't it? Because what are they going to do? Report you? You're deported, buddy. Okay? I'm going to get on call you an illegal, an undocumented. More like a legal alien, buddy. But yes, for health and construction, those are the main industries that actually do need more jobs. Which again is still a lie because if you pay people more, it all gets fixed. That's not the issue. But working construction, it's such hard work, it's not glamorous. Yeah? How about 100 grand a year? Plus overtime. Plus holidays. Want to work now? Oh, you want to be a nurse? How about 150 grand a year? Yeah, I think we wouldn't have a problem recruiting at that point. And then obviously once we cut immigration, deport the illegals, and we allow the housing base to continue to build, housing will be cheaper. People will be able to move on into houses with their families and then actually start a family. With more economic prosperity, there's a subsequent rise in birth rates. We saw this after World War II. Okay, it's a recurring theme. You have a good economic situation mixed with, strong family values. Boom, baby boom. We got to bring back a baby boom. The only sad part is that over the next 6 months, this only applies for Montreal, by the way. It's not even the whole province. But this will only affect and reduce the amount of foreign temporaries by 3,500. Which, you know what, for a city, for Montreal, is not terrible. But I want them all out. There needs to be a permanent temporary worker ban and have them all get out. They're saying that in Quebec right now, there are 600,000 temporary residents for the whole province of Quebec, which is double what it was in 2021. How many years is that? 2022, 2023. Oh, 20. So you're telling me we brought in 100,000 temporary people over 3 years? No, per year, for 3 years? And we're only going to cut it by 3,500? Sounds like a drop in the bucket. And a lot of these people aren't leaving. They're not very temporary, it seems like. We'll get into the PEI protesters soon, but it's a very similar story. then François Legault goes, who's the premier of Quebec, goes, if it wasn't for the 300,000 new temporaries, we would not have a housing crisis. What? Oh my God, guys, the level of it's too much. I don't know if I can handle. It's too much. The genius. It's too much. He's so smart. Yeah, this is extremely apparent. We've known this, François Legault. Thank you for your. Please bless us with more information. Please. But yeah, now all the other provincial parties of Quebec are now criticizing the François Legault's government, the Coalition Avenir Québec, the CAQ, for saying he's not going hard enough on immigration. The leading party for the next Quebec provincial elections will be the Parti Québécois, which is a separatist or a pro-separatist political party that wants to separate Quebec from Canada and instate the third referendum for Quebec independence, which obviously I don't believe will go through. But what I do find interesting is that despite hating Canada as a whole, all the other political parties are very provincialistic, let's say. I don't want to say nationalist because it's not, I guess, nationalist for Quebec. And they're very pro-isolationist and pro-anti-immigrant, which is very awesome, I think. You know what? I'll agree for Quebec to separate as long as there's no more immigrants. I'll agree. And then, they're also asking for, the CAQ is asking for more rights from the government, from the federal government, to cut immigration and to choose who they want as immigrants. And what does this mean? Because immigration is a federally held competency, but for Quebec it's shared. So what that means is that Quebec does have more of a say than other provinces in how much and, from where and who gets to come to the province. However, they're now saying that they want more immigration power from Ottawa because this is bullshit. Why are we letting a foreign, essentially a foreign government, and I'm not even a separatist, but why are we letting Ottawa and the retards at, Justin Trudeau's cabinet and Pierre Poilievre's cabinet and Jagmeet Singh's cabinet and Elizabeth May cabinet. Oh, there's only like one party that doesn't, and the Bloc Québécois cabinet to a lesser extent, but it's really like only one political party in Canada that doesn't support mass migration. Huh? I wonder who that is. But they're saying they need more power from Ottawa. And it's very interesting to see the difference in rhetoric because, Quebec has always been since the late 60s has become a very progressive province and usually left-leaning and is rare to vote for conservative governments. However, even the most conservative provinces, like Alberta, with the famed premier Daniela Smith, who's supposed to be this like poster child, it's Canadian Trump, right? Something like that. But she does an interview like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something. She goes on a podcast and says, yeah, we need to double our population. We need to bring in as many people as possible. And then I lost it right there. You're conservative, sir. Oh, yes, we need to double the population. Let's build more apartment buildings. Let's get more brown, black, and Chinese people. Please, we need more Indian saw. We need more. I don't want this country smelling like shit. And this comes also after the UN makes a scathing report on Canada's foreign temporary worker system, which is, quote, a breeding ground for modern slavery. And this is just great. These left-wing type people, they seem to really like slavery. They seem to be very pro-slavery, even though, well, it was the Democrats who defended the South. Okay, who cares? They're different parties now. I don't really care. But, you have all these left-wing lebtards who are like, we need more electric vehicles. And at the same time, it's like, oh, let's not help the kids in the Congo who are mining cobalt with their hands. Right? And they're literally being sold as slaves in bags. I saw a video about it. It was these just bags everywhere, these cloth bags everywhere. Obviously, I saw it in X. And then one of the guys opens up the bag, and there's like a 4-year-old kid in the bag. It was not great, and that's why I don't support electric vehicles unless you can prove you're not using slavery for your minerals. Anyways, the report written by UN Special Rapporteur on Contemporary Forms of Slavery, Tomoya Obokata, says the program puts workers in an unfair power imbalance with their employers. For example, if a worker is fired, they may be deported. Yes. Some workers are deliberately not informed of their rights or too fearful to report exploitative working conditions. Many of them are also put in debt bondage while participating in programs. Quote, they may also incur debts from third-party recruiters, including the cost that legally should be borne only by the employer. Yes, Tim Hortons will really be paying for your housing and your legal fees for you to come here. And you're going to get paid a real wage. $5 an hour. The program is administered by the Employment and Social Development Canada, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, and Canadian Border Service Agency in Quebec. Provincial government is an administrative partner. Base Quebec as usual. Oh, but they speak French. Shut up. The government defers a significant portion of responsibility to informing temporary foreign workers of their rights to employers, despite the obvious conflict of interest. Because workers lack access to justice, they are at risk for a variety of other abuses. The special rapporteur received reports of underpayment and wage theft, physical and emotional and verbal abuse, excessive work hours, limited breaks, extra contractual work, uncompensated managerial duties, lack of personal protective equipment. No, they can't have their N95 masks, including in hazardous conditions. Oh. Women reported sexual harassment, exploitation, and abuse. Last fiscal year, Canada's 2,122 inspections resulted in fines totaling $2.1 million, up from $1.54 million the year before. And now they have these websites where it's like, it tells you all the companies that have been fined or had inspections that have failed. And it's just the same ones again and again. It seems like there's a pattern here. The health and safety of temporary foreign workers in Canada is paramount. Please, get out of this country. Responses from government surveys of temporary workers found that the majority, 76% of workers, knew about their rights and responsibilities. They don't speak English or French. About 80% of the 1,600 workers surveyed said their knowledge of their rights and available services improved. Yes, 1,600 out of 5 quadrillion billion infinite people. It is the responsibility of employers who hire temporary foreign workers, TFWs, to ensure their safety and well-being for the entirety of their employment. It is the responsibility of the federal government to ensure that employers are complying with the program and those who are not to account. Yeah, maybe if you're caught exploiting temporary workers, maybe you shouldn't be allowed to keep hiring temporary workers. Seems like a small conflict of interest. I don't know. But yeah, it's very interesting. And maybe I think here's the solution, guys. Here's what we got to do to end the modern slavery in Canada. And it involves bringing in more immigrants. But think about this. Think about this, guys. We increase the size of the federal government. So for every 1,000 immigrants we bring in, why don't we increase the size of the government by 10 people? And then it just keeps growing. And then, these things will just stop, right? Because there's no conflict. So that was supposed to be the good news of today, is that Montreal is finally turning the tide against a trend that has not been proliferated amongst Canada, even in the most conservative provinces. It's like the provinces that are pushing back generally are more left-leaning provinces. It's Quebec, and then you've got the Atlantic provinces, which I'll get to again in a second. But more fun and just so much great news coming out of the Justin Trudeau cabinet. We spoke about this a little bit last episode, but it's about the new permanent residency express entries. So when you come into Canada, you are categorized, especially as a foreign temporary worker, you're categorized in what are called tiers, TEERs. And that is essentially a mix of your education levels, your incomes, your skills. And it ranks you on tiers from 0 to 5. So the lower the number, the higher level education you have. So for tiers 0 to 3, it's usually when you have a post-secondary university degree or you've taken apprenticeships or other types of schooling for longer periods of time. These are considered more high or to mid-skilled workers. And previously what has been allowed is that when you come in, if you are tiers 0 to 3, you are allowed to apply for a permanent residency and then put your name in for the permanent residency. However, if you are in tiers 4 to 5, which is less than at the highest high school education but lower, and no formal education whatsoever, you have not been allowed to apply for permanent residency, because why should we have you here? We should just keep you as a slave forever, am I right? Everyone's going to get mad at that. It's not about that, guys. It's about, these companies are both exploiting Canadians by not giving them jobs and depressing their wages and giving them shittier products, but also exploiting temporary people, temporary foreigners, by literally making them slaves. Yes, big businesses are at fault, even though I'm sorry, Palantir, I'm sorry. We love you. Get that contract from the government. Go bomb some Gazans. Something like that. I don't know. But now, Justin Trudeau had this bright idea, it appears, and obviously the immigration minister, Mark Miller, our fave guy, our best bud, is now allowing for tiers 4 to 5 to have permanent residency pathways. So great. We're going to be flooding us even more. And you Google get PR in Canada, and there's 1,000 sites that just show how to get permanent residency if you're a caretaker. Because now, if you're a caretaker, or at least claim to be a caretaker, you get in essentially immediately, and you get permanent residency. Thanks to Mark Miller. We've spoken about this before. And there are just all these websites created by these Indians who are just exploiting the Canadian immigration system because they make so much money off of it. So great, now we're going to have even more lower skilled immigrants come here, because these types of immigrants are the same immigrants who came here 50 years ago, 100 years ago, to build their lives up, to keep their heads down and integrate into the society. I like rejoice when I see an Asian person or an Indian person have absolutely no accent. That is music to my ears, especially old people. And a lot of more old people are a lot more respectful than a lot of these guys. These people, they don't even say thank you anymore or please, okay? It's supposed to be this Canadian custom, this culture, this cultural phenomenon that we have, that we're so polite. Yeah, these Indian people, okay, they don't even say, well, maybe it's because they don't speak the language, but instead of saying, like, please and thank you. They nod their head while looking at their phone. It's very disrespectful, I think, and I'm unhappy with the deported. Yes, so thank you, Justin Trudeau, for going to be allowing even more low-skilled immigrants, because that are the ones we need. Speaking of low-skilled immigrants, let's talk about the PEI protesters. Let's check in with our boys, because we haven't heard a lot of news about them. So we've spoken about the PEI student protesters, or whatever. Basically what happened is that Prince Edward Island says there are too many low-skilled migrants here. We need to target more industries that we actually need. Healthcare, construction, whatever. We don't need retail low-skilled workers anymore. So they cut their provincial nominee program, the PNP, which nominates different temporaries for PR pathways, and they reduced it by 25%. That's all they did, okay? Then you have all these Indian student visa holders who then became temporary foreign workers and are all working these, retail, Tim Hortons jobs or whatever. And they go, well, that's not fair. You can't do that. Who are you to say we can't stay? The government, buddy. Nobody wants you here. And then they started protesting in front of the provincial parliament, downtown PEI, in Charlottetown, sorry. And they start protesting. Then they're there. They set up all their camps and stuff, their encampments. Then they get kicked out by the legislators. They're saying, yeah, dogs, not in front of here. So they move over one property. Now they're just sitting in front of a church, because these people are real religious for the religion we want. Christ is king. Now they set up a bunch of their encampments in front of I think it's the St. Paul's Church. Anyways, they then begin a bunch of publicity stunts to try and get the province to back down, because the big bad government. And good on the government for not backing down. WPEI. But they said they're going on a hunger strike. They're 24 hours on a hunger strike till death. And then they stopped that. And they said they'll do another one. And they stopped that. And they've been, crying in front of the media. They've been harassing all the independent journalists. They attacked Harrison Faulkner. They didn't like his views, apparently. Then there's a fire. At around 3 a.m., there's a small fire that ends up burning a bunch of tarps and around half of the tent. Nobody was injured. So then, the media shows up, and the organizer, the Indian organizer, starts complaining and starts, accusing the people of Charlottetown of racism and of wanting to kick them out through violence. A bunch of MPs, liberal MPs or stuff, got involved, saying this is unacceptable. We do not tolerate this type of racism. And then literally 2 days later, the police investigation finds that these people are just retarded. And that a mosquito, it was like a mosquito coil, burning mosquito coil, burnt the whole thing down. Is there any apology from the members of parliament who are accusing their own constituents of racism? And what about these protesters? This is what they were saying before, literally 2 days later, when it was proved that these people are just fucking stupid. This is from the organizing guy. Quote, going away is not the answer. If their message was just to scare us, I think that was really the wrong thing to do. Meanwhile, some guy's sleeping in their mosquito coil because you're going to organize a protest. We can't be bit with mosquitoes. You're not going to fare well back in India, I'll tell you that much. No wonder they don't want to leave. And I guarantee you these people aren't leaving. they're going to stay. And they're going to become, if I had to guess, illegals. Or when Pierre Poilievre comes into power, they're not gonna change anything or actually improve it. Let's give mass amnesty to all the illegals. I think that's what Trump should do because he's so moderate at this point. I am no longer a fan of Trump's policies, just by the way. They need to get the Groyper War to go a little harder on them. And, the final story of today. Sweden hits a historic milestone. And I'm very proud of Sweden, Sweden has always been the poster child for welcoming refugees and immigrants and asylum seekers. For the past several decades, they've had this open arms policy where they've let in millions and millions of people. Then some weird started to happen. Why is my peaceful neighborhood suddenly getting so violent, so dangerous? Why are so many women starting to get raped now? Why are robberies so much higher? Why are all my bikes getting stolen when I bike everywhere? I didn't used to have to lock up my bikes. I used to be able to walk out at night, go to clubs, and not look over my shoulder. I wonder what could have changed. I don't feel comfortable on the metro anymore, on the subway anymore, on the train, on the bus. Because there are people with knives. There are weird people with knives everywhere. And they're, why is drug selling and drug use so much more rampant now? I wonder, what could it be? I know. Yeah, we know. Massive amounts of crime and social discohesion is causing the Swedish government, who is a moderate right-winger, to begin much harsher rhetoric on immigration, especially anti-immigration stances, where they're moving away from their open border policy, their open arms policy, and now they're starting to really crack down because things are getting out of control. These refugees, these asylum seekers, these illegals, these immigrants are causing so much crime in this, what used to be literally an ethno-state that was one of the most peaceful, one of the highest ranking in terms of happiness, in terms of economic prosperity. This country has been the poster child, along with Norway and Denmark, have been the poster children for literally every other country, for all of Europe, and especially when looking at America. These left-wing types love to say, well, look, they have socialized medicine, they have all these things, they're the number one, they're the most happy people on the planet. Yeah, I wonder why would Iceland, a tiny island that's completely isolated and has no immigration whatsoever, why would they be so happy? Why would they be so close with their community, with deep cultural ties and a shared heritage and a sense of belonging within a community? What could it be? It's very interesting. So now they're setting up like train stops when trains go from Denmark to Sweden to make sure that nobody's trying to cross the borders. The rhetoric has become increasingly anti-immigration. The visas, they've begun enacting tightening restrictions on who can get a visa, and let's say if you're here, you can't necessarily bring your whole family here anymore. But the main milestone that everyone, I think, should be cheering is that Sweden hits net emigration, not immigration, emigration, for the first time in 50 years. The level of asylum seekers is the lowest level it's been since 1997. The trend has been increasingly decreasing, with only 5,600 asylum applications, which is down 27% since last year. Sweden is making remarkable gains in pushing out the bad people. though they could go a little bit further, but this is an extremely good step, and I think is a trend that more European governments need to take, not should take. They need to take it because the survival of their countries are not guaranteed unless you stop the flow. The quote-unquote far-right Swedish Democrats, which I think is pretty funny, but I can't believe the Democrats are finally based. They're pushing for a law called the quote-unquote snitch law. It's not actually called that, but it's snitch law, which would legally require public service workers to report illegals. In the article, they said undocumented. I'm saying what it actually means, illegals, which, Sweden's kind of doing everything right. And yeah, that's what's been going on in Sweden, because you have to start. And it actually proves what's so interesting is that having just anti-immigrant rhetoric actually does deter immigrants or asylum seekers or anybody. Because what is the main thing? When you ask any foreigner in Canada, or foreign-born or in Canada, what's the best thing about Canada? You know what they say? That it's so open, it's so welcoming, it's so diverse, it's so open. There's so much compassion for all the other types of people. I've said this before. That's not why we've been great. Is that why Sweden is great? Because it doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like it anymore. Rapes have increased almost 1,000% in like a decade. Crime is at the highest level it's been nearly ever in recorded history in Sweden. And this idea that there's so much economic prosperity brought from nope, these people are all on welfare and they're a net drain on public finances. We saw it from the study in Denmark, which I've spoken about, is that foreign-born Denmarkians, once they pass age 18, they generally become net contributors to the tax base and then provide taxes all the way till their late 60s. However, when you have other European-born immigrants, so other people from Europe, let's say a Frenchman goes to Sweden, or Denmark, I should say, their net contribution is significantly lower, and overall, I believe, is either net negative or a small positive. And then finally, you look at anyone coming from, I think, the MENA area, which is the Middle East, North Africa region. And them, you get here, let's say you get here at 5. Net sucker, taking away all the money. More net. Oh, are they contributing? Nope. They're costing the taxpayer. In fact, they cost more than what the average Dane will provide over a lifetime. Seems like a small imbalance. It's all these hidden costs because nobody actually wants to look into direct costs of immigration because it would be such a crazy number that maybe rhetoric would start to shift. But anyways, today I just really wanted to go over a little bit more in depth, a few more immigration issues. And I know my rhetoric's been so intense recently. I will not apologize for that. I'm just getting pissed off. Things are making me angry. The world is changing in the worst way possible, and we're here to fight for it. And we're not going to let people, foreign countries, dictate our future. We can take control in this country. We can do like Sweden and stop the immigration and start deporting people, introduce tightened restrictions on visas, increasing the police, stopping the crime, and kicking illegals out. If Great Britain or even America had such a trouble, or even us have such trouble keeping our borders closed, I've got the solution for you. Okay, say you're part of the border agency in Great Britain, and you see a bunch of Somalis coming on their little raft There's like 100 people on these little like barges coming towards your border. You know what I would do? Just stop. Pop the boat. Don't let them come in. Why can't we shoot the illegals at the border to stop them from coming in? I can't believe America isn't doing that. But that would be a PR nightmare. No, I think it would be a pretty good PR stunt. Not even a stunt. It would be proving that finally we're fighting on the right side of history and that we're protecting our countries and the things we love. Instead of building a wall which would cost billions of dollars, just get average Americans to go sit at the border on lawn chairs, give them a bunch of beer, and just let them go crazy. Let them just shoot at anybody who tries to cross the border. I just fixed the immigration crisis for all of you. Thank you, as always, for listening. Stay Canada first. Keep Canada One.